St. Lucia Carnival used to exist in the shadow of the Trinidad Carnival. And so for a long time, we actually competed with each other as events, as meccas of talent, even the ability to have exchanges of ideas, interaction, skills, performance. Now what is happening is that because the Trinidad Carnival is in February, generally February, March, and ours is a summer festival, there's a lot more collaboration. So people from Trinidad come here, and more people from here go to Trinidad. It seems also that since that change, and you'd have to really look at the correlation more scientifically to come up with a conclusion, but it would appear that since the change, we've also had the rise of non-traditional carnival bands who focus a lot on what the visitor is looking for in terms of party, good time, and they're doing a lot of publicity and some excellent work promoting the carnival outside of St. Lucia. So I would like to believe that there's a growing contingent of persons who come home for carnival and come with their friends, and other people from other carnivals in the region also come to St. Lucia during our carnival time because they can. On the other level, there's a lot of collaboration. A fair amount of St. Lucian music makes it into Trinidad, not just because Ricky T goes to perform in a show, but also because we have studios here and writers, arrangers, and composers who are getting a lot of attention on the regional scene and who are producing music for some fairly big names in Trinidad. So that's a professional development that's happening as well. Certainly at the level of the pan, steel pan, there's quite a bit of interaction between steel pans in St. Lucia and steel pans in Trinidad, with people coming to play and people going to play, and with arrangers also collaborating and learning from each other. And it's not a one-way thing. St. Lucia is actually making quite a contribution to music in Trinidad. From my perspective as a band leader, we have also been able to forge collaborations with persons from Trinidad, many of whom we have taught a thing or two about the craft of building and designing costumes. And they've come and they've worked with us and they've learned and they've grown. And likewise, people have been able to access designers in Trinidad who produce for the St. Lucia Carnival. So I think there's much more synthesis between the two carnivals than when they were competing, or they were at competing times. So that I think is a very good thing. What we need to do more of is to make that a little bit more systematic so that we can develop those linkages and we can actually develop the collaborations with the support of governments in particular, to project the St. Lucia Carnival brand out there and let people know that, hey, we're probably not far behind Trinidad in terms of our level of production of music, costumes, steel pan, and so forth. What we need is to project that. And with the Trinidad Carnival not being on at the same time, we now have like the whole 4 months of summer to project our product down into other markets. Of course, that also puts you besides Barbados, St. Vincent, Grenada to some extent, and Antigua, all of whom have summer festivals. But there's also the opportunity to cross-market. And certainly people who love their mass, and they will travel to play mass. And if you have a good product, then you can just as easily go promote your carnival in Barbados or St. Vincent. I think that it's one of the areas that we need to work on. What is St. Lucian Carnival, and what does it offer that is different and better and bigger and fresh? I'm not sure that we have that well defined. There's been a dose of policy, strategic policy surrounding the sector for some time. The Carnival Bands Association and the stakeholders of Carnival, largely PAN and the Carnival Bands and the Steel Pan and the Calypso, have tried to pull that energy together. But we've had a lot of vagaries, a lot of ups and downs in the way that things are managed. We had some stability in the last 3 years with the Stakeholders Committee really investing in that process of improvement. and being accountable to themselves, because they're, as stakeholders, they couldn't go complaining to anybody else that the carnival wasn't working, because they were responsible for managing it, the stakeholders themselves, along with the Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Tourism, Chamber of Commerce. It wasn't well, and of course creative industries and culture, with representatives from CDF. Unfortunately, I think we've lost some of that this year. There's a new management structure. Well, we wait to see, and we wish it luck. But I think that you've lost a certain amount of accountability, of self-regulation and self-governance, which is always going to be superior, as an approach to sort of imposing a structure over, people who have been doing this for a while and who have learned a lot and who have gained a lot of experience and who could bring that experience to the table in a non-contentious way. So there are some stresses and strains. We have to look at what the policy environment for Carnival really is. What are we trying to achieve with it? How to make it grow, how to make it more stable, how to make it more profitable in some cases, because a lot of bands lose a lot of money, and there is not an equitable approach to who does what and why and what the returns are. And there's also not a fair, where we don't come out looking very good if we compare what the returns are, say, in St. Vincent or Trinidad or Antigua. For mass makers in particular, mass makers are at the end of the spectrum in many respects here. And as a mass maker myself, I know that it's heartache and stress and virtually no return. Now, that's not sustainable, and it does not bring new people into the market, or if they come, they don't stay for very long. So we tend to fluctuate. I think this year we're down to 10 bands. Last year we had 13. The year before that, a few more. And as the economic situation changes, you tend to lose those who are not so robust. So we really want to see a very strong policy environment built around the carnival, with a very clear idea about this is why we're subsidizing it, this is why government is involved, where we're going in terms of the growth and development, how do we preserve the creative elements of the festival, which are in danger of being lost in the party vibe of Carnival, which is necessary and important, but it cannot be the only thing, because then, as you said so eloquently, what are you doing to distinguish yourself?
1, 2, 3, hi-ya! No other one but you.
Has the music evolved? I would say absolutely yes. First of all, there's some very talented writers, arrangers, and musicians out there who are up on the technology, up on the market, up on the trends, and producing stuff that is very marketable. Does it need to go further? Certainly. One of the categories I find is growing satisfactorily is the groovy. I don't think that the traditional calypso is growing as well and holding its own quite as well. And I think part of that has to do with language. It has to do with how well people write lyrics. And I think the wit and satire and social commentary which is required, and repartee which is required in the calypso arena, I think we've seen a dilution there, which we need to definitely build up. But a lot of people are going through the school system not doing language and not doing literature and not doing history and not doing geography. So some of our understanding of ourselves as a people has diminished, and where we come from has a lot to do with where we want to go, what we want to achieve as a nation. So I think some of those things need to be re-emphasized, so that the technical talent that we develop in terms of creativity, so we're marvels in the studio, but whose story are we going to tell? What story are we going to tell? What's important to us as a community? What are our issues? Identity, independence, economics, family, personhood, color. What story are we telling, and how well are we telling that story has a lot to do with how well your calypso is going to fare in the international marketplace. You have a few people who are doing quite well, but a lot of the stuff does not hold up as well, and it doesn't travel. The truth is, it simply does not travel. So groovy travels because that's a whole other market, it's a whole other demographic a lot of the time. But it is part of what I see as a spectrum, which includes traditional calypso. So in the same way that your Lawas and your Marguerite are at the, you could say, the right wing of your cultural spectrum, and maybe performance poetry is at the other. As far as language is concerned, all of those things need to be feeding off and interacting with each other, and making each one making the other a richer experience. So we're losing a little bit of that. But has the music evolved? Definitively, yes, it has evolved. But in patches.